What's going on YouTube? In today's video, I'm going to be reacting to Do All High Schoolers Think the Same? I'm going to be reacting to it as a high schooler and also as a Christian. So let's hop right into this.
Seeing an iPad kid, I'm like, wow, what job is he gonna have? He knows more about scrolling to the next video than like anything that will help him get a job.
High schoolers are kids. 3, 2, 1.
I would have to say no. High schooler, I would say it's its own category. Because, like, it's just a maturing period for people. Like, this is the time in your life where you are going from childhood to adulthood. Especially the transition from middle school to high school is a big jump. I'm a junior currently right now in high school. But what I've seen a lot in myself and my friends and other people that they've went from like being disruptive and like talking all the time and being super hyper to being like this calm, and not calm but like a lot more laid back than they were, and they're more gentle and they're a lot less active. So it's like a big maturing period for people that it helps develop them. So I would just say high schoolers are not kids. Compared to some people they might be, but
I feel like to say high schoolers in general are kids is almost like defeating the people who are in the minority. Like for people like me who have grown up more just mature for my age and I guess fitting more an adult mindset, I feel like I can't say for myself that I'm a kid because I definitely make adult decisions time and time again. I mean, there are people who still have the mindset of kids, but I can't say high schoolers in general are kids. I
feel like with high school, it's such a broad statement to say high schoolers because there's a giant difference between a freshman and a senior. Like it is, that's why like when they try to date each other, it's like, why is that 18-year-old trying to date the 14-year-old? Like it just doesn't make sense. I feel like it would be naive to ignore the fact that like, especially anyone who's a senior, they're about to be a legal adult.
I think kids need mentoring. That's how I see it. I mean, adults too need mentoring, but I think kids need that extra help and that extra push. I've seen many kids who have been forced to be older or act older as they are, to mature faster. That's why.
Yeah, that's a sad reality that kids have to go through that sometimes. There's situations in people's lives where they would have to take on more responsibility than they can bear, especially at a younger age. It's sad, I don't know. I don't wish that upon anybody.
I went for agree.
I want to move.
You want to move? Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I
Talk
didn't
us
know if I
through.
could.
What are you thinking?
Well, I agree. I feel like there's just so many decisions, especially in high school, that we have to make that are not like kid-like, and they expect us to act a certain way. And also like the fact that we're even able to drive, how should we still be considered a kid?
Do you mind if I move? Yeah. I moved because I feel like, especially at that 16 to 18 age, you're constantly planning for your future where it's actually difficult to live in your childhood. It's just kind of, you're unable to live as a child. So it's like, how can you consider yourself one when you're constantly planning for your adult life and future?
When I was a freshman, all the teachers around me always told me that I needed to prepare for my future. And I feel like, especially coming after online school and quarantine, I'm still living in that middle schooler mindset. I'm still basically like a kid living.
Yeah, no, so they have a good point. That's what I was saying about the maturing thing. Like, this is your time to plan for your future and to think about things that you're going to do in your future, which is also called maturing. When you're going from a kid to an adult, when you're going from a teenager to an adult, and it's like, you have to prepare for these things, because if you don't, then you're not going to have a set thing. Like, I'm planning right now for my future. I kind of want to go to school to be a pastor, and I'm working towards that. So, yeah.
And preparing for my future, which I'm clearly not ready for.
I feel like kid is kind of a weird word. So like it's just kid and adult. And I feel like in high school, I kind of want to be thought of as a kid because it's kind of like, oh, he's a kid, right? It's like an excuse almost. Like you're allowed to mess up. I really can't like look at my classes full of 18-year-olds and say, these are adults. Like, I feel like now it's later and later we're turning into adults. I don't feel like we turn in, I mean, of course there's people that have to pay bills at 16, but to say a high schooler is an adult, I feel like I like to know that I can grow so much more from that. Like, oh, I did that when I was a kid, not, as an adult.
Yeah.
Today's high schoolers have it harder than previous generations. 3, 2, 1, go.
I would say in certain areas, I haven't lived in previous generations, nor do I want to. I like my generation, even though there's problem with everything. But there's different areas that change. Like, there's such a heavy burden on kids a part of the LGBTQ and also kids that aren't, because the kids that are for it and the kids that are against it, like, they can't seem to agree. Like, they're always butting heads. And that wasn't really a problem back in my parents' generation. My parents just told me that if you were gay, you got bullied, which is just how it was back then. But there's different struggles from generation to generation. So I would just stand in the middle for this. I wouldn't really have, because there's no set saying that this is harder.
I feel like now, our generation, we have more resources for help that we need, And way back then, like mental health, that was like, they would put you straight to camp or like some conversion, stuff like that. But I feel like now there's just more resources. We have the internet, we have the media. Like, would you have wanted to send a pigeon to...
Yeah, but that's also a different thing. Like, with the media and with all this stuff comes a responsibility. As Uncle Ben once said, with great power comes great responsibility. Social media is a great power, but it can be used in terrible ways. Like, seeing how many people get bullied on the internet, like, it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. Like, people use it in different ways, and it hurts us more than it helps us, because the amount of people I see cheat with social media and with all these things, it's insane, it's absurd, and it's more of a buffer than it is a help. Like, yeah, you can email people, but at the same time, instead of emailing them, you would rather just look up the answer.
Your friend instead of texting your friend, like, stuff like that. Like, would you want to have, we just have it easier now.
I feel like it's an in-between thing, because I feel like social situations now are much better, but back then they were much worse. I feel like there was racism, teachers could beat their own kids, and I feel like now there's so much things that we cannot do, and I feel like it's for the better.
Can I move?
When I think about this question, I kind of went to bullying and how much easier it is to get bullied nowadays, especially on social media. Because it's so easy to hide behind a screen, people say worse things. And I think that mental health, maybe it was just as bad back in the day, but because of social media, it's become more prominent and we see it everywhere. Another thing that I also thought about was, you guys say that we have more resources, but don't you? Well, you don't have to agree, but I feel that the resources have kind of made us a little less smart, because we're able...
That is literally what I said. She knows what she's talking about, at least in this, because, yeah, like, people just use it to cheat.
Able to look up that, the answers to our test, or I don't know, everything's just so much more accessible that I'm not really learning
crazy,
as much as my mom and dad did. So I kind of sad that all our resources are so much more accessible.
Yeah, I know some dumb, people they're like, is it hot outside? And then they'll go to their phone and check the weather. Just go outside,
I feel like school right now is so easy for our generation. It is so incredibly easy. Especially now that I'm in senior year, I mean, I'm not taking incredibly hard classes, but they don't even give you homework because they know you won't do it. Yeah. It's they would rather have you pass than teach you something. And the amount of kids that held back is nothing. It's just, oh, keep going ahead, go ahead, go ahead. And so seeing classrooms from older generations, it seems oh, they're learning, there's more respect to the teachers. Now there's such little discipline that every class is just a muck.
I feel just because things are easier does not mean it's better. My friend goes to college in San Diego, and there's literally a group chat for people in a nursing major just to cheat on the work. And if we're having nurses that don't even know how to give you medicine, stuff like that, it's scary.
I did want to hit on how the pandemic impacted you guys.
Yeah, I think it did impact
It made me fat. Like, I literally gained a bunch of weight from it.
our
That's
generation.
the only thing that happened. And I cheated on everything. That's what happened during the pandemic.
And I know personally, I was always so great at talking growing up, and then going into coronavirus, not really like talking to my friends a bunch and like being kind of like antisocial and to myself. Coming out and having to talk to adults was like terrifying. I didn't want to do it at all. I couldn't even talk to like my peers.
When I went back to school, I felt like I was still in 8th grade in middle school. So it was very hard for me to adjust. And this was definitely like the biggest change like that affected our generation, if you think about it. You know, we didn't deal with the bubonic plague or a big, you know, stuff like that. Like this was the biggest impact. And I remember going back to school, I was so anxious. Like I would take half a Xanax, you know, almost every morning because it was so bad.
There was this day where we can finally take off our mask, and it was so weird seeing everyone, but I never knew what to do with my face. It was just crazy.
I feel ready to explore my sexuality.
What are these questions, bro? Like this, okay, this is actually like off-putting. Like, we should not be asking high schoolers this. Like, this is just a terrible question to ask. I'm actually gonna skip over this one. Only because, like, this is just so off-hinge. Like, we should not be asking high schoolers this. I don't think people... Because, like, the way I look at it, there's two genders, and there's... A male is supposed to be with a female, and a female is supposed to be with a male. There's just no, like...
Worst thing ever.
I feel safe at school.
Yes,
3,
yes, I do.
2, 1, go.
My campus security are amazing. They have a personal relationship with all the students. I've had bomb threats at my school. I've had like shootings literally walking distance down the street where the school had to go on lockdown. It's unfortunate, but also like it just makes me really aware. Like for every classroom, I have what's my hide plan? Who are my people? I don't feel comfortable putting my phone in the phone chart because if something happens, I want to text my family. And that's why COVID like lifted a lot of weight off my shoulders because I didn't have to worry about that all the time. Also, like a lot of people at my school who have mental health struggles, I'm always afraid that like someone won't be properly treated for that and then they'll just snap one day, you know?
My school has had multiple sexual assault scandals. Like my history teacher right now, my world history teacher, if it weren't for the current sub, it would be with basically a pedophile. So it's scary. And when she mentioned like the bomb, I think I remember last year someone created an account with our school name and it was like shooting or something on this day and our school ended up canceling school for that day and it was horrible.
I feel so fortunate to have grown up in a really privileged area where there's not a lot of violence. However, I feel like I'd be ignorant to say that a school shooting would never happen because all it takes is one kid out of the 2,500 students that I have to take a gun to school and shoot people. And I feel like there's so many different openings on my campus where that could happen.
We have gates, but it honestly looks like a prison.
Okay, yeah, that's me
I
too.
won't lie. We have security guards. They're not armed, which was a conversation that came up. Should our security guards be armed? And another conversation came up. Should our teachers be armed? You know, there's just topics like that. I remember this was actually recently, one of the old students at the college threatened to shoot up the whole school. And so even we had to go remote. So it's just like, never feel safe.
My social media presence is important to me.
No. I don't care how anybody perceives me. You could think I'm the smartest guy or the dumbest guy in the world, and I'll treat you the same either way. Because I'm called to be a loving guy who's compassionate and who loves people and who gives forgiveness. And I don't care what you think about that. If you think that's cringy or corny, good for you. Like, my social media presence doesn't matter to me at all. Like, I would rather be hanging out with my friends right now, but I live out in the country and I'm not really able to have access to that. I don't have my license yet, nor even do I have a car. So, I would say no. and I don't even have social media. This is the only social media I have. I have no other things.
3, 2, 1, go.
I don't particularly post, like maybe just my story, but like I'm not like constantly posting. And if you do, that's perfectly fine. Like that's a lot of people's outlets, and especially creativity.
I don't own a single social media, and like not as like a flex. I'm just saying like I hate the presence of an app in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you should do this. Like it's an app on my phone. Like I don't want to give it any part of my life. So I'd just rather not have it.
I think sometimes with social media nowadays, it also can fall into career, which is really weird, but that's like what I do. It's like, oh, I can't post that picture of me like flipping off the camera with my friends because like a college or a future boss, because your digital footprint is so real. But I also I love having social media. Like I've had it for years. I've always like tried to ground myself and realize that it's just for fun. It's not that serious.
There are some
Yeah, but a lot of people take it way too seriously, and it makes it so easy to bully people and also to like just hurt people in general. Cuz when I did have Snapchat, I've seen a bunch of posts where it was like calling out somebody without saying their name, but like you knew who they were talking about. Like I don't know if you guys would understand that, but it gets to a point to where it gets too much to handle. That's why I deleted it. And people are like, how do we solve bullying? Like how do we stop the cyberbullying? The easiest answer is to get rid of it. But people don't want the hard answer. But it's the most effective and most way that it would work, and it would be the most effective.
people who I know who have like shown or done some really crazy stuff, and it's spread everywhere. Like there's some things I do not need to know, and people just tell me. Like on Instagram, there's like close friends, and there's like normal story, and I post on close friends so much more than I do on my normal story.
Or like a spam account.
yeah,
I
exactly.
post on my spam account
Yeah.
like way more.
A couple years ago, I would have been right there,
It's a
like on the
spam
strongly
account.
agree. You know, like, because when I moved to the new school, a lot of people were like, oh, how many followers do you have? If you had over 1,000, it's like, yo, you got clout, like, you're good. Digital footprint, that is no joke. Like, everything you post will come back at you. I'm so glad Instagram took off that feature where you could see what other people liked. Do y'all remember that? That was ridiculous.
That's why I'm very aware of what I post. I make sure this is what I want everyone to see.
And yet when
me
you're,
as.
I'm so sorry. When you're a kid, like you want social media, like when you first find out about it, like when I was 9 years old, I was like begging my mom to let me have Instagram. And now like I'm even embarrassed of like the little like selfies I would post because like they're so stupid. So like looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I would totally never let like my 7-year-old on social media, like, you know, things like that. But I actually did have social media very young.
Yeah, me too.
I got Twitter when I was 6. My mom made it and managed it,
Yeah.
but I would still like, I would tweet about like my little kindergarten like crushes.
You like having your mom like to like guide like the account. I feel like I didn't have that, unfortunately. So I feel like it just depends. Like your digital footprint could be much more harmful like when you don't have parents that know how to handle social media or know how to prevent it. Because my parents, they've never used social media. They don't have a single account. So growing up like begging, I don't think they knew the harmfulness of it. And I don't blame them for that at all, but I feel like that's what led to me being exposed to a lot of stuff. So I feel like definitely with the new generation, and if, I don't know if I'll have kids, but if I do, they're not on social media, at least for me.
When those iPad kids, I mean, those kids who use iPads, it's
My
so
sister's an iPad kid.
addicting. It's so addicting, and you need parental controls because social media is crazy. Like, or having your parents run the account, regardless, it's just so, that's so important.
Or even having influencers like Andrew Tate who are like influencing these like
Right.
little boys to
yeah.
think that that mentality is like normal.
Yeah.
I feel like social media has drastically
And even then with Andrew Tate, and not even just Andrew Tate, but people in general, like, you can't just say that there's this person's wrong or this person's right. Obviously there's objective morality towards things, but I'm not saying you can't say that in an objective morality way. I'm saying you can't say that because people will disagree with you. Like, people take clips out of context. Like, I've seen a bunch of Andrew Tate clips taken out of context. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with him, but I'm saying, like, I've seen people have clips taken out of context and used harmful. I've even seen it with the Bible. People take Bible verses and they just take the little verse that is something bad, and they don't read past or before that. They just look at that and they're saying, look how damaging your Bible is. Look what it's doing. Look what it's saying. And they're just blatantly ignoring everything else that is said before that or after it.
Altered my personality, especially during COVID. And I feel like if it could change me that much, just imagine a 6-year-old having access to a phone for their basically entire childhood. But like, honestly, I got so sensitive to being in front of camera that I feel like I kind of forgot about digital footprint and stuff like that.
I have hope for the future. 3, 2, 1, go.
I would say yes. I would say I do have hope for the future. In some aspects, no. Like with how many people cheat in schools, like our doctors, our nurses. I still have hope in them. But I would say having hope versus knowing what's going to happen are two different things. No one knows what's going to happen in the future. Only God does. But I would say I do have hope in the future for those kids and for the younger generation. Like, I see them walking around, like, they talk so crazy. Like, my little cousins talk about skibidi toilet, and it's like, bro, what are you talking about? But then I realize, like, I used to do the same thing with something different. And everyone used to have slang words that the adults or that older generations wouldn't understand. And it's just the way, I guess, our society develops, so to say. Whether it's for the good or the bad, like, it is what it is, honestly. Like, as long as it's not preventing learning or preventing growth in the future, I don't really see a problem with it.
I don't know, man. Seeing an iPad kid, I'm like, wow, what job is he gonna have? You know, I mean, he knows more about like scrolling to the next video than like anything that like will help him get a job. I don't know. I don't feel like
Okay, but how much did you know as a kid, though? Be honest. Like, the only difference between them and us was I was outside playing and they're on a tablet. So
I very much hope for our and the next generations, as like I feel we keep getting like the younger generations kept getting like profited on and like abused almost.
When I heard this question, I kind of thought about social justice and like the issues that we're experiencing right now. Like, there can be a change. And I just really don't think that people back in the day were seeing that type of change. Everything was just thrown kind of under the rug, not really spoken about.
I still love to dream, like, oh, I would love to achieve this one day, but even if I don't have that financial capability, I still have hope. I hope I could get there one day, and I still try to remain positive.
Everyone's goal at the end of the day is just to be happy in what they're doing and make a difference in either your own or someone's life. And I think, like, just by having this discussion, like, there's so much hope for everyone in here to go on and be successful in that, no matter what it is. So I have a lot of hope for the future, and I'm really excited, even though I'm nervous and I'm anxious about a lot of it, I'm really excited to see, like, in my personal life, like, what that means for me. Because I know I'm never gonna stop until I'm happy with what I'm doing.
I mean, I feel really grateful for our generation because a lot of us are very open-minded to having these types of conversations, whether or not it relates to us or exists in our nature. But I feel like people are so open to change now, and I feel like that.
I disagree. I do not agree with that. I would say people are, like, they agree to have screaming matches with each other. Like, if you talk about politics anywhere, I rarely see a peaceful debate on politics ever, even in my school. And people having, he said, a conversation, it's screaming battles is what it is, and it's people defending themselves real quick. Because there was, for one example, in my civics and government class, we talk about current day events, and we got on the topic of abortion. Wait, no, we got on the yeah, it was kind of abortion, but it was how abortion is done, and someone said, well, if you prevent these people who are forcing themselves on women, and you enact a bigger punishment, and you say that, oh, you're gonna get the death penalty if you force yourself on someone. I said simply that's not the case. And as soon as I said that, before I even had the chance to explain myself, she was attacking me and she was like saying, how dumb are you? Like, that's stupid. I was like, just because you have a bigger punishment for something isn't going to stop people from doing it. There's things that people are going to do no matter what. It's the sad reality. You can have as much of a punishment as you want, but that's not going to stop someone from doing it. And she still was like yelling at me and saying, oh, we just shouldn't have laws then. And it's just crazy because people are open to have conversations if they're right.
It's just great moving forward, and I feel like a lot of us Gen Z people have gone through such traumatic and bad experiences that we're going to become amazing parents one day.
Like, I think I remember, like, during quarantine, there was, like, a sign in New York that said we had, like, this many years left and before our world, like, ends or something. And my sister is an iPad kid, and I've seen how she is. And it's like, I want to say I have hope for the future, but just based off what I'm seeing, it feels like there's no change, kind of.
Alright, so that was all the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good day. God bless.